are back. We are back.
Yes.
How you doing? What's going on? How you doing, Enkay?
Oh God, I'm fine. I have I've already had a crazy week, and it's just like Tuesday. So
Yeah, no,
it's
me
weird.
too. Me too. Honestly, look at my leg. I have this bruise here, war scars from the gym when I'm doing fit fam. Yeah, literally.
Well,
But guys, we have the amazing Yesterday with us. It is a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thank you. Thank
Yesterday
you for having me.
of Oloricoitus. Am I saying it properly?
Yes, Uluri-Coitus.
Oloricoitus.
a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
So tell us, what does Oloricoitus mean?
So, Olori is the Yoruba word for queen, and coitus is the Latin word for sex. So, essentially, Oloricoitus, queen of
sex.
Exactly.
Interesting. Honestly, like I love your work. I've been on your Instagram. I'm like, wow, she's so amazing.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, it's amazing work that you're doing, especially like in this part of the world. Well, in general, women are not like, free sexually. We're not allowed to be free.
Yeah, so society socializes
Do you know
us
what I
to
mean?
repress our sexuality.
Exactly. So tell me, like, are you someone that's always been sex positive? How did you get into this like sort of line of work?
So it's a bit of a long story, but I think if I go back,
We have time.
well, I think if I go like far back, when I was in secondary school, I read a book called Every Woman. It's called Every Woman, a Gynecological Guide to Life, and it like kind of opened my eyes. It was my mom's. Wow. It was in her library, and I just kind of picked it. It wasn't a book for children, obviously,
right?
But I think it was like maybe 10,
wow,
11.
Really?
And that's when we're the most curious.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just saw it was big, looked like a textbook, but I started reading. You flip like through the first pages, and it just kept talking about like all these different stages that like women go through, from like childhood, adolescence, even like menstruation. So even before like I got my period, I had already kind of known about it. I'd read about it.
Wow.
Then my friends would have like, I remember a friend of mine didn't know how to use a tampon, and I helped her.
Are you serious? So you've been doing this from young?
I've been doing it from young, but then I thought I was going to be like an OBGYN, because in Nigeria, if you have an interest in like health or something, they say, well, go and be a doctor. So I was looking at being a
Even
doctor.
if you don't.
Exactly. So I was looking at being like a doctor for women's health. Then when I got to college, I went to the University of Florida, and on campus, there were like organizations that were, you would have all kinds of student organizations. And one of them was called Gatorwell. They used to give out condoms on campus. They would train, like if you were interested in volunteering, they would train you on like, learning about like STIs and stuff,
Nigerian
and talking to
universities
your...
would never. They would
really? Do they not?
Well...
Babcock.
Have you been to universities? Do you know me?
Babcock.
I think we should not name call, but I know that in Babcock University
There
where I went
was
would never.
A few months ago, so I think sometime last year, I saw like a brochure from Babcock that had to do with like you guys have like I think orientation book or something.
Yes.
And in it talked about like what a penis is. And
Oh,
like
good.
What a
So that means
vagina,
they're
what a woman.
changing.
No, it was terrible, because it was talking
bad
about how like
information, bad
it was
education.
bad education. It was like, a woman's vagina, or a woman is a parcel of land waiting for the king
Virtuous
to
woman,
come
Proverbs
and
31
yeah, all those
okay.
kind of things. Proverbs 31 women
The
are great
usual.
women, but like it was obviously like it was so very, very like bringing down women,
Of course,
and things like that.
The
So,
usual angle, but go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. So where did I stop? Okay, so college.
College.
Yeah, and then when I went to college, I went to the University of Florida,
Right.
and we had an organization called Gatorwell, which part of what it did also was student sexual health. So if you were part of that organization, you would get trained on talking to students on campus about like sexually transmitted infections, being safe, and we used to give out condoms on campus.
Wow.
So I got super interested in that, and I started, volunteering with that organization, and then I went on to work for the state in the minority AIDS and HIV work, which is
nice.
actually the work that I still do now. I actually work for the government in, doing the community response to HIV in Lagos.
Wow. Oh, that's what you do now. You have a 9 to 5.
I have a 9 to 5. Yes.
Wow. I mean, Bosco, we did not know that. I thought you did that full time.
No, well, I do. I have my 9 to 5, so I work for the AIDS Control Agency. I also work with Oloricoitus, and then I have a jewelry company called Dilekedi, where
Nice. Jeez.
Yes, so
Ilekedi.
Ilekedi.
That's such a
Ilekedi.
sexy name.
Thank you.
What does it
Ilekedi
mean?
is
Does
the
it have-
Yoruba word
what
for
does it
waist
mean?
beads.
Waist beads.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're mostly like a waist beads. We do waist beads, waist chains, and now we do like other jewelry, like anklets,
Nice.
personalized
I love
jewelry,
anklets.
phone
It's like the ones
charms.
in
Love
your,
it.
your hand.
Yes, like the ones in my arm.
Oh,
like,
really?
so
You make those
bracelets
as
like
well?
this.
Gorgeous.
Yes, we do. We have anklets, all kinds of stuff, and
I
then
love anklets as well.
and then we have like personalized phone charms. So
Super
you can have
cute.
long ones, short ones.
Super cute. I think I'm gonna be getting one.
Hey,
That's
Come
actually
through.
a lot of things to
Thank you.
juggle. I think you're doing well.
Really.
thank you. It's not always easy. I'm not like
Of
Sure.
course. I mean,
And especially
course.
like, you know, within Oloricoitus, I'm sure that you have like, how was your response? So how did the women and men, like from the general public and online, take this, you know, platform that you were creating? Because I know sex, again, is just so taboo, especially for women. Women are not allowed to talk openly about enjoying sex, wanting sex, liking sex.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, like, I don't know, would you slut shaming? Were you experiencing that? How?
Sis, when I started Uluri-Coitus, it was in 2012, and this was
11 years.
yes,
You
this
are an
was in the-
OG in the game.
I am a bit. I
What?
am. I need to take my flowers. Don't I?
Take them.
Thank you, sis. When I started, I remember it was in the early days of Instagram, and I actually used to call it Coitus. And the idea was for like an anonymous page where you would send your questions about sex anonymously, and then I would answer them. Orisha, you know,
Right,
the
right,
Orisha of the goddess of
right.
sex would answer it. Later on, a few years later, that became Oloricoitus as rebranded. But in terms of people's acceptance, people used to be afraid to follow me. Back in the days of Instagram, when you would follow, if you followed yesterday, Instagram will tell everybody that follows you that yesterday that you now follow.
So this is someone you are interested in following.
Right.
Yes, but it used to make the announcement. If you liked content on Coitus, everybody you followed, you know, there was
What a
like a
weird
like
announcement.
tab. Yeah, everybody you followed would see that you
so people
had
are
just
ashamed.
liked. So people didn't like to follow, or like, so there was a lot of like start and stops for Oloricoitus. And then later on in 2017 was when I really started to push Oloricoitus and push the content. So a lot of people think it started in 2017, but it actually started in 2012.
Way before that, right.
People used to be, and I remember even like under my post, like maybe Enkay would comment, and then Teso would come and say, "Enkay, you are here." Like under her comment, like
typical.
so
Meanwhile, what are you doing there? That you saw me here.
How do you even know?
How did you find it?
Thank you. I used to get messages from all kinds of people that would say, "Oh, you know, I'm a man of God, or a man of God. You should not be leading the youth astray." What
How
is
did you
this
find
that
my
are
page?
talking about? You know, or maybe I make this, I post about something, and then, you know, people are gonna come and they're just like losing their minds on, you know, and people tell me that I'm going to hell and all of this. And then I start telling them, I said, well, you know, if you open the Bible, I'm not a Muslim, but I'm a Christian, and I can tell you what my Bible says about sex, and God actually loves sex.
Right.
God wants us to enjoy sex. Yes, according to, you know, Christianity, you want to have sex within the confines of marriage. That is how
I
it's...
was going to talk about. But yeah, go
No,
ahead.
but the thing about it is, but we have a God of love. Right? And even when it goes outside of what, you know, you consider, you know, modest, or you consider, you know, religiously right, our God of love hates the sin but loves the sinner.
Right.
So why should do you get what I mean?
How are you
and
to judge?
For me, my thing is this. I'm not, people think, oh, Oloricoitus, I'm a sexual health educator. Please always underline that health part of it.
Nice.
Your sexual health is a super important part of you.
Right.
It's as important as your physical health. It's as important as your social health. And you know, now we talk a lot about mental health. It's super important that even if you're not having sex, you need to be aware of what's going on with your body, how your body reacts to things. So it's like, oh yes, you're being celibate, which is great. When you do decide not to be celibate anymore, you shouldn't be in the dark. You should know what to do and how, you know, how to get pleasure, because really pleasure is our birthright, isn't it?
It is our birthright. I say that all the time, especially for women. So women are so ashamed of their sexual pleasure. I mean, like, I don't know, I want to go into should I enter this topic or not? Should we go into it? Like masturbation, for example, right?
Okay.
I like the fact that you mentioned marriage, right? Because, you know, and religion. I'm not somebody, I used to say that I was a Christian, but I'm not. I don't class myself as a Christian anymore. I'm spiritual. I class myself as spiritual, right?
Okay.
And I believe that everybody should be tolerant. But I find that women tend to look at women as, if you're not, our sexual pleasure is policed. and it's policed in a way that men's sexual pleasure isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're saying, men can have sex and enjoy sex however they like, but women are not allowed to. We're not afforded the same. What can I say? What's the word?
There's just stigma when it
Well,
comes
there's-
to women.
Right, unless you're married, they say,
if you like sex too much, there's this stigma that just follows you.
exactly,
if you
and you can
are
only have
married-
literally.
Even if you are married,
Actually,
because
they also
it's
slut-shame
true.
you in
you
marriage.
are listen. You talked about you talk about masturbation, for
Right, I
example.
wanted to go into that.
There's married women are not expected to. Okay, now you're married, so
Masturbate,
now
right.
you have a. Should I say you have a license to have
To
sex?
not have sex, right?
So when I tell women that while you're having sex, you're a married woman, great. You're having sex with your partner. Do you know that you can also touch yourself in the middle of sex?
right.
And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
no, my God.
Really?
How is it going to... Well, I mean, there's always two parts to it. One is, I'm a child of God. I shouldn't be doing that.
Oh,
That's dirty.
right.
The second part is, how's it going to make him feel? He's going to feel like he's not able
He's
to
inadequate.
satisfy me.
Yeah.
Or he's inadequate.
Which is
But
not
here's the
true.
thing. The sex that we were taught, the sex that most of us know, is the most efficient way for men to orgasm, which is
Exactly.
penetration. Women's most efficient route to orgasm is not penetration.
Exactly.
Clitoral
It's clitoral stimulation and other
Right.
forms of stimulation.
Yeah.
External
Stimulation, right.
right? So if, for example, he is penetrating you,
Mm.
right? Or he's, ministering to you somewhere and you find that like maybe your clit needs to be touched more. You can put his hand to touch it, but you can also touch your
Exactly.
clit
Oh,
yourself.
but my experience has been quite different because when you tell men to do something like, oh, I
Take it
like
personally, they
that
get angry,
movement,
yes.
right? It's this thing, right? Men see you different immediately.
Yeah, the
It-
slut shaming.
see,
Who
it's
taught
the
you that
slut-shaming.
one?
Where
they
did
see
you
you
learn
different.
it?
Like, where did you learn that from?
Right.
Oh, I'm having sex with a hoe. I'm having sex with somebody that has too much experience.
Right.
They get put off immediately. You
Yeah.
can literally feel it and see
Which
it.
is so crazy because they come with their, I have this move and I'm going to,
Exactly.
there's this move I learned. Listen, and I tell women, when you feel that, he's going to ask, where did I learn it from? The same place you learned
You
your own.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I don't feel bad. Yes,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. If you're with someone who feels that, you should not be able to express your sexual
problem.
self fully with them, then you probably should be rethinking
Exactly.
whether you should be with that person, because that same person is probably having other hang-ups about you even outside of the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you get? Sometimes, to be fair, right, we also have to flip it on the other hand and see that maybe these men have not been exposed
Exposed
Yeah.
to
enough.
You-
Don't get me wrong, right? It's easy to think that, okay, only women are woke, right?
Okay.
But there are men, the same way there are women who don't know these things or who are not.
There are men who
as
don't know
exposed.
them
There are
too,
also
it's
men
true.
who don't.
See, that's
No,
not
but
even
this
the
is
problem.
my
The problem is the
problem.
communication as well.
And this is my problem.
tell
There's
you-
a difference between not knowing and
being
then
open.
being open to knowing.
Yeah.
That's too. If I tell you that this is what works for my body,
You say,
just like if you tell me that, okay, I need to suck your dick this way, right?
I'm gonna pay
You're
attention.
liking the hand movement, and I'm telling you that, okay, penetration, yes, but like you have to give me some clitoral movement.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
you're like, just put off immediately. Or you just pretend as if I didn't just speak.
Yeah.
Then you just
Yeah.
stand up.
My dear, it's time to go
Yeah.
home. I
Thanks
think
for
I left my
coming.
I'm
gas
telling
on.
you.
Which
A guy told me I complained too much once, I
Oh
literally
my
said to him, you're
God.
hurting me. Like, literally. Like, it was hands as well. I was like, you're hurting me. Can you
Because
stop?
sometimes they try to do it like they're doing
DJ
Pomo.
Bob.
Like I see you're watching Pomo.
I still touch you that word. Can you stop? So I said to him, guy, listen, you're hurting me. He said, you know what? You complain too much. I said, okay, well, that's my cue to go.
And
I'm
that's
going
what
home.
I'm saying. Like, I think
Because-
men always think that they already know.
I think
Yeah.
it's about knowing, and then I think sometimes they feel like they're doing you a
Pressure.
favor.
Yeah,
But
they
as you
do.
said, it's not a man and woman thing, right?
No, it's not. It's a
Because
human being
If
thing.
men sat here, they will have their own things to
Right.
say
Yeah.
about
They will talk about how
Exactly,
like I told
yeah.
her to do this and she
Yes,
did it.
yes,
But
yes.
I feel like all this, it's like a mindset thing,
Right,
which is
right.
if you go into sex thinking that I'm going into sex to just like get pleasure for myself,
Exactly.
then you're going to be put off when someone is like, oh, you're not doing this right for me. But if your attitude towards sex is, I'm after my partner's pleasure,
Right.
and my partner's attitude is, I'm after
Right. It's a
he's
two-way
after my
street.
pleasure, then we're both going to win
I'm
because
sorry.
we're prioritizing.
My own advice, and
I
I'm
agree.
not you, but I'm just saying
like that.
from my own experience, right? Men come into sex looking for their own knot.
Yeah, to
Like,
be for the most.
literally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
That's
feel
why
like
they
some
don't-
men. To be
No,
fair,
not
okay,
all
let me not
men.
say.
Not
I
all
haven't
men.
seen- I have
Not
Yeah,
all
I was
men.
gonna say that as well.
I'm not going to say it's all men,
yeah.
but from my
I've
experience,
been quite lucky.
Most men I have done conelengan longos and coitus with,
Right. Coitus.
I love how she's
they come in for their nuts. That's why they don't care about foreplay. They know.
Yeah.
I promise
They
you,
don't
they're
really
not
like
as
foreplay.
misinformed and miseducated as we would
Yeah,
like to
I
think.
guess.
Well, yeah.
They know that when for some women it's the nipples, they know for some is the neck,
Mm-hmm.
and some is kissing. They know, but they're not spending more than 1 minute on foreplay.
That's another thing I find quite lazy.
But
And I
say
love
something?
foreplay.
Can I say something? Can I say that women then should, if more women say, you know what, if you don't do this,
I'm not doing it.
I'm
if
standing
this
up.
if
I do
this
that all the
is
time as
not
well.
happening, thanks for coming.
Literally.
Right? It's the reason they can keep doing their 30
because we
second,
stay
1
there.
minute
Because, yeah,
foreplay.
it's
It's
true.
because if you say I'm standing up, the next person is going to be like, I'm just so happy he's here.
Yeah,
You know,
for real.
like
for
me,
real.
oh.
and to be fair, like
And we need to be vocal.
back in the day, I used to
Yeah.
really, it's easy to actually say we need to be vocal, but there are a lot, it's a multifaceted thing, right? If you're not vocal in your relationship, like outside of sex, like, you know, he says, oh, we're going to lunch, and he picks a place and you hate this place. And you said before that you hate
I
this
get
place.
you.
But then you go and you're fuming because you don't want to be a nag. But you already,
Right.
you know
You're
that
not
you don't
expressing
like that
yourself.
place.
It's true.
Do you think that you would in the bedroom now be able to speak
Speak up, right?
Do you
right.
get? And you're not talking about sex. And a lot of times, again, we talk about, and then there are women who tell you that, listen, I am very assertive in my relationship. I say X, Y, Z.
Right.
I let him know what I need, what I want. But they don't talk about anything about sex because they only talk about sex in the bedroom. Are we talking about sex like
As
at
a
lunch?
conversation,
As
right?
a conversation,
right,
like we're sitting
Which is
here, like,
important,
hey.
yeah.
But we feel like if we talk about it, then you're a nympho. Or then you're a
Yeah.
hoe.
That's the problem. That's
With the
what
slut
this
shaming.
is what I wanted to say, right? There's a stigma attached to stuff. So I'll read this tweet just to see where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Right. So this person says red pill, obviously a man. You cannot turn a hoe into a housewife. If she has slept with lots of men in her past, she is not wife material. Better to find a younger, prettier virgin who will happily stay loyal to you for life.
Can you see my face?
So I need you to understand where I'm coming from so that you can understand how we're
See
going
what
to...
I mean? Like,
There's so
I'm
many,
talk
there's so
about
many, there's so
this.
many layers to this.
literally to
Bro,
the right.
because first he's like, oh, you can't tell a hoe, she has slept with plenty people. Okay.
That's number one.
Number
You're
one is
hoe
find a
automatically.
younger,
Younger girl,
you know, we
which
now
is
start
very
thinking of,
weird. It's giving pedophilia.
thank
Right.
you. Now he said, what did he say again? Prettier?
It said prettier.
So saying that like the older you get, the less
The
pretty you
uglier
are.
you-
Exactly. Ageism again. All of the things for women.
and then stay loyal to you
like,
for life.
so she's just so happy to be
yeah,
there.
because
You
she's
see,
a puppy.
Well, you know what usually
Obedience.
happens? You know what usually happens about things like that? They find a young woman who's malleable. Because, you know,
That's
I mean,
why, yeah.
the way I thought about life and
At 22 is
at
not the
22
same.
is not how I
Absolutely.
feel now at 35.
Yeah.
I swear, absolutely.
So they find that kind of woman. And then by the time she's 30, she starts to come
she
into
starts
her
to reason.
own.
I'm telling you, she's like, come, you know what?
And then all of a sudden, he's like, but you're not the same.
why would I be the same?
Or who's the woman I married? Now all of a
No,
sudden,
yeah.
And
like
then
all of a
she
sudden,
has
you are
friends.
speaking back.
It's
No,
your
not even-
friends. No, it's your friends.
She'll
that
say,
tell
they'll say it's your
you.
friends
Or
that are
maybe,
deceiving
or
you.
maybe by this time, you know, like now she's progressing in her career, she's becoming
Right.
more, and so now she's becoming
more
assertive.
exposed to.
Seeing that, oh, I actually don't have to just take
Take
this.
this, right.
And now all of a sudden he's like, oh, wow, I don't know which kind of woman you are. I don't know where's the woman I
That's
married.
it. And then there's this the shaming again,
Yeah.
the shaming of
But
your growth.
I would also come from this place. I'm sorry for being the devil's
go ahead, I beg
advocate,
you. Please, go
right?
ahead.
I always come from this place that because I wouldn't say all women, obviously,
Right.
but I've seen it happen many times.
Right.
So because some women know that this is what men like, they literally now play that part.
Yeah, they do.
It's not
Just
like
to get picked.
just to
Yeah,
get
but it's
picked.
the whole pick me culture that we speak about.
But
though.
is it their fault? Though?
It's not their
Because
fault. It's
again,
the
it's
patriarchy.
society. It's the whole
It's
patriarchy.
literally creates
because when
it.
you look at it,
It
right?
creates it.
You're a single woman of a certain age. There's a stigma attached to
You
it.
should have been married.
Automatically.
I'm telling
Why
you.
are you not married?
Especially at
I
this
mean,
age.
you know, why are you not married? Even
I hear that all the
you,
time.
Even
Within yourself.
women, like there's a lot. We talk about stigma a lot, but we forget to talk about self-stigma.
Yeah, right.
So you're thinking about yourself. Like, okay, why am I not? It means I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
It means this, there must be something wrong with me. You
Let
know,
me adapt.
there's what society, I won't lie. I'm a married woman, and the advantages of being married.
They
Yeah,
are
definitely.
being a missus
Are
in
you
Nigeria.
kidding?
Are
There's-
you
And
joking?
I won't even lie that there's
Gives
an
you a different
advantage
stigma.
of wearing like
Your
of wearing a
wedding
wedding
ring,
ring.
yes.
And you have a different kind of respect that single women don't.
It's still kind of a disrespect, but it's a certain,
course it is.
it's
Yeah,
a disrespect
because
that
you're
is still
being-
better than the
Because
normal
because
disrespect.
now you are madam.
Yes,
because of your husband
You get
now. On
now,
your own, you're nobody.
Now, of course, there's still the irritating part of where like they still put you in this.
Yes.
But there are things that come. There's a societal, there's societal respect that
Benefit.
comes with being married for
Facts.
men and women.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
True.
there's some people that should not be married. There's some men that
Yeah,
should not
definitely.
be married, but they get married because
Of the
status.
Status.
And then
Yeah,
I
it's
hear
true.
when I was in the bridal shower, I
business
heard
is what
people
works
say
better.
like, yes,
I've heard
that
that.
they
yes.
get businesses, they get work
Yeah, I
when
heard
they're
that.
married.
my
I heard that
sis.
for
Let
men
me
as
tell
well.
you, I remember that there are men that have told me things like, oh, maybe in their office when they were single, there's a deal, or maybe they
I've
want to
heard that
give this
too.
particular role or something, and what's between them is one person is married and one
the other
person is
person is
single,
not, yeah.
and they go, you don't have responsibilities. Let's give it to you.
Literally, I heard that too.
Yes.
Yes.
You don't have what
Yeah, that
bukata
happens.
do you have? You don't have any bukata.
That's
Now,
why
let's give it to-
literally families would force they will bring a wife
Yeah.
for their son because
You
they
must
don't
marry,
really care.
yeah,
Like
it's
you
true.
must
It
marry.
shows that
which
you're
is why
responsible.
some men
Yeah.
they look at the age, they're like, listen, this is the age
I need to
that
be
I
married
need to be
by.
married, and any
Any woman that is
Anything goes. I
available.
beg, let's just do it.
They just
And
have,
they
they just
say
have
stuff like-
be a good girl, be a this, be a that. That's why they get deceived, because then the women are like, oh, this is what he's looking for.
Let
I'm
me
gonna
know.
play into it
And they say
for like
stuff
6
like-
months.
Yeah, exactly. And they say stuff like, oh, like when he marries, you will make him more responsible.
Oh my God, you know what?
Oh,
They, all
chale.
the time.
That
all the
that
time.
trope is so played out.
I really feel bad for women that really just are victims in all of this because
No, definitely.
but women
they
and
don't
men
know
are victims,
better.
though.
No, not all of them are victims. That's why I said before that women,
Yeah, of
some
course,
women
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Because
They know.
there are men that enter it because the women will play the fiddle.
Mhm.
So these women, they would play to the gallery, be the good girl, be everything, and then you marry and you're like, ha, this is not what I was looking
Right,
for.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, like people expect that marriage is gonna fix them.
Right, and it doesn't.
Like we think that, oh, he's a hoe.
But when I get married, he'll be better.
Or let me
Community
be politically correct, right?
Let me hear what she's gonna say.
They, they are sexually deviant. No, let me not
Deviant.
See, the deviant is even worse. But yeah, I know what you...
infidelity.
Right, okay,
right?
let's say that.
So this person is plagued with infidelity, and they believe that being married is going to change.
It's crazy because
that
it makes it
problem.
worse.
Fix it,
It
right?
makes it worse.
Oh, all they need to do is be married. But the thing is, now
Because now you're not going
they're not
anywhere.
like cheating on their girlfriend.
Cheating on their wife.
They're cheating on their
And
wife,
let me tell
or
you-
they're not cheating on their boyfriend. They're cheating on their husband.
Yeah.
Right.
And now the consequences and the repercussions of breaking up a marriage are so much worse
Exactly.
than breaking off.
Another thing is
A
that
relationship.
apparently married men are hotter in the market than single men.
Hey, wait, my
I
sister.
used to hear that
Apparently.
one.
It's not a
Sha.
lie. It's not a lie.
Apparently.
It's not a lie.
Yeah.
It's not a
What do you
lie.
think that is though?
It's not a lie. There are men that will tell
Men
you.
have told me that. Sha.
There are men that have told.
Me,
Because
I've
I'm like,
seen it many times.
I remember
too.
when I was still young, and I used to be like, why don't you wear your wedding ring? Why don't you like? Let me tell you, this ring is a magnet. They will tell
It
you
is.
that when they get in, they go
Because
somewhere.
you think they're responsible, Abby?
Yes,
I
they're
don't
like,
know what the
if you
logic
can
is
commit.
behind this.
See, this patriarchy thing.
Yeah.
May God
I'm
help
telling
us.
you.
It's so what, because we always say patriarchy,
Very layered as
and we
well,
say it
very
about
layered.
as if it's just men
No.
that are,
No.
you know,
No, but
some
we
of the
suffer from
biggest,
it now.
some of the biggest
Misogynist.
upholders
Yeah,
of
of
patriarchy
patriarchy
are
women.
women.
Are you kidding me? Yes.
And so there are women that
Yeah.
will see you like, I'm a single woman. I want to be right. I look at you and say, you're married. That means you can commit. Because there are a lot of men that won't commit.
Yeah.
So let's put those ones aside. We don't want them.
Yeah.
You're
Hey,
responsible,
wait.
Yeah.
right? You must be taking care of your family.
Mhm.
That means
Yeah.
you can take care of me.
Right.
And you can be responsible to me.
I think that's the
So let me
logic.
I'm just going to shift your responsibility from woman A
Yeah.
to me.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you a question. I think in my own experience, I've been slut shamed a million times.
Right.
I mean, I can't count.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But like, I think that Ashewo, no get any value
Do it
again.
worldwide, though. That word, like even let's say prostitute as well. It's like anywhere you that is like
Like
the
oh,
biggest
slave.
thing for sluts.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
So
the biggest
I have
thing
been
for women.
I have been slut shamed a lot in my life. I think the biggest time, like when they were asking on Twitter, where was the first time you were catcalled? I think it was as early as 9 years
Yeah, me
old.
too.
Oh, yes, me
right?
too. Very
so
early.
I think as early as then, I have been slut shamed for no reason. I didn't even understand what it was, but it was
Yeah.
happening, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, from your own experience, have you been slut shamed? Have you been stigmatized for your sexual appetite or lack thereof? And how did you handle it?
So I think in terms of being such a, you know how you said you were catcalled at 9? A couple of friends and I were talking about how, like, when we were younger, I distinctly remember, and you know the thing about girls' bodies is like once breasts just show up,
Yeah.
I used to be like super busty.
Yeah.
And so literally the boobs showed up around between GS2 and GS3. And I remember when like it changed. Like I went to an all-girls school.
Yeah, me
I went to
too.
Queen's College, but I used to go to a lesson that was mixed. And so in my lesson there were boys and girls.
Right.
And I remember like when my boobs like showed up, like it went from buds to like boom. It literally felt like overnight. And all of a sudden there was like change in like energy towards me.
Yeah.
From energy from like the boys in my class
And even girls.
that used to look at you as like their guy, and now it's like, ooh, you're a babe. Even from teachers.
Vibes
And
just
teachers,
change.
No, but even from teachers,
Yes.
because when you
Yes.
said that early, from teachers, because now you're hanging out, maybe you're friends with guys and you guys will sit and gist and all. Now you're sitting down there and teachers like, will you move away from there?
Yes.
Get-
Yeah,
all of-
yeah,
because
yeah,
and now
yeah,
you're
yeah.
wondering what is the
Why?
problem?
What's the difference?
Like a few months ago, it was fine for
yeah.
me, and now all of a
Right.
sudden I cannot, because there's something now, because you know breasts, you think
Yeah.
about them sexually, so now there's something sexual about me that cannot. And then all of a sudden, like you're walking on the streets, and men, I promise you, that early, like 11, right, and you'll be walking, and like men, people's
Catcalling.
fathers.
I had that too.
People's
Oh,
like there's one I can never forget. It was the man he was driving the car, stopped and was like, oh, can you direct me to so like where's this place? I'm like, oh, just go here, turn here, blah blah. And it's like, thank you. Drove a little, and then he stopped the car, waited for me to like get close. I was like, oh, would you mind joining me? Because it was like a
Kai.
restaurant. It's like, oh, would you like mind
Oh, the
joining me?
Hey,
I was like,
I
no,
remember
I
that
promise
too.
Kill
you guys. I was walking from my house. I was going to church because our church was like a few
How
like
old did you say?
streets, like 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very young
Our,
age.
our church was like a few streets away from our house. And there's all those, you know, you have youth something, this, all this church. I was literally walking to church and I was walking out. And so I was like, oh no. And then I'm like, oh no, sir, I'm okay. And then I'm walking there. He drives a little. You know how like they're driving
nah.
slowly,
Typical predator
trying to
style.
like,
following you.
you know, now we think about it, it's like, oh my God. Like if somebody, my child, I have a 6-year-old, almost 6-year-old, and I'm just imagining her at 11.
If it was her,
Somebody-
right?
Somebody, like I just want to kill that person. But it was so,
It's so common.
accepted and so normal.
common.
And nobody would have said, oh, he's a pedophile.
No, they'll say, "Oh, she looks mature," and I
I'll
always
say,
think to
hey,
myself,
you
and
too,
it's
when,
a
and you know when you
lie.
say, when you go home and you tell somebody that, or you tell an adult that, back then they'll say, you too, when you will dress like this, or
That's
you
I
too,
was
when,
going to go to
when
that
you're,
girl,
where the
yeah,
and that
shaming
thing,
comes,
and you
and I
know,
don't
that
like it.
thing was such a, that was such a problem for
Yeah,
me,
me
that like
too.
the way I dressed, because like I said, super busty, and I would wear clothes like I would never wear anything revealing, anything, you know, like I used to try to wear like minimizer bras,
Yeah.
anything that would just make my boobs
Draw
look
attention to you. Yeah.
smaller. Like I was so afraid of like doing anything so that it won't be said that, oh, it's
I'm the
because
one that
the
is
reason,
this,
exactly.
yeah. And a lot of women go through that as well. You're shamed for the way
Yeah.
you even dress. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
decency and modesty. Like
But you
now
know
you
the
can
funny
see
thing
I'm
about-
open, and I
Yeah.
could never do this before.
But
This
you
is
know
a
what's
new
interesting?
thing.
You know what's interesting? You see that? If I wore the same thing,
It will be different.
it would be totally
No,
different.
of course, yeah.
And then yours, they'll be like, oh, okay, she's you know, she's been
Yeah.
no, they still shame me.
Fashion
No,
if
no,
I
expressive.
hear,
No.
no,
no,
don't
say-
shame me. But I know what you mean. It's
explain
bigger,
what
Sha.
she's saying.
It's
Like
true.
you know, you show that amount, or maybe we wear the same V-neck, and yours would be like, oh, fashion. Oh, this is even when I wear it, right?
Right.
And all the boobage is in front. Now it's gonna be like,
Right.
oh my God, it's so vulgar.
right.
The
Meanwhile,
same outfit.
Yeah.
and it's just
You
because
know,
your body's different.
Just because
And
of
the question
bodies.
is, what are you selling? And I'm just wearing a cute top. Are
right,
you joking?
Right.
No, that I won't lie. Even till tomorrow, literally, Easter Monday, we had a family function, and there was a dress I wanted to wear. I've wanted to wear this dress. I bought this dress like a year and a half ago, and I didn't wear it. I've never worn it. Why didn't I wear it? The dress has a slit, but it also has like an open cleavage. So I was like, hey God, this dress is nice, but cleavage and slit.
Slit, yeah.
And my sister was like, my dear, it's okay, just wear it like that. I'm like, hey God, she's like, you're an old woman. I said, yes, I know, I'm an old woman. She's like, Oloricoitus. You know what you talk about it? I said, yeah, please. I know that I have been socialized into this. Do you know what I did? We sewed
Yeah.
it. Like, so we sewed it on the inside to kind of make it like less,
Right.
and I felt more comfortable, and then I was able to wear it. But then you just realize that like these
Look at all
things
the gymnastics
we have to do.
is in the mind, because like 2-3 people are like, no, the cleavage is not so much. I said, please,
I know.
the cleavage is much.
And it's because of the outside. Because you know people's views and how they're going to look at you.
But you know what's interesting now? I'm not even sure that it's now like about people's views. It's about how I
feel internally.
view.
But the way you view yourself it came from people.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, definitely. And then you just realize that like we police ourselves because I mean, don't get me wrong. There's also the school of thought. I won't lie, Sha, that there's a certain level of modesty that is good. So I think
for you though.
no, for you.
Yeah,
I
right,
think it's a personal choice as well.
Right,
you know, I mean, I try not to be a judge, obviously in the work that I do, right? I try not to be a judge and be like, oh, okay, you should dress this way, you should dress this way. Because I can understand why somebody wants to. But I also think that it's okay for me to want to
be modest, yeah, of course, to be
more modest in how, I dress,
Yeah.
for example. And so you have to kind of balance it. Because I also think that on the flip side of slut-shaming, the whole sex positivity movement has a way of shaming people who now want to be celibate, people who want to be modest.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a choice. Both sides are a choice, and I don't think either side should be judged.
And I also feel like, again, you just said, sorry to cut you off, but about celibacy and modesty as well. We assume that if you're celibate, then you're modest, but not really. I mean, I've been celibate for like 5 years now, but well, let me not say 5. I was celibate for 4. Let me tell you the truth, okay? No, wait. If you guys listen to season 1, you remember, right? So I was celibate for 4 years, right? And then I broke my celibacy last year, April. What's that? It's the watch.
Why is he talking?
He's supposed to get involved in the conversation.
I'm confused. I'm supposed to be fire. Jesus. And I put the thing on do not disturb.
So yeah, then I was celibate for 4 years. And it was a personal choice. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, like I'm just sick of this. This is not gonna work for me. I'm not gonna have sex again till I get married. Blah blah. That's what I was telling myself, right?
Sorry, what were you sick of?
I just men. Let me be honest. Because at the time I was looking to get married, right? So I was like, this is not working for me. Let me just stop until I find somebody I want to get married to, right? But then after 2 years, I decided that marriage is not for me, right? That was my personal choice. I'm like, I don't like it as an institution, You guys
doesn't favor you.
It's not for me. I don't like the origins of it. I don't want to do it, right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, fine. Well, now I'm going to have sex because what am I waiting for?
Let's get into it.
And then 2 years, I just didn't So another 2 years passed and I wanted to have sex, but I didn't want to have sex with just any random person. I wanted us to align spiritually and mentally. Like, you still have to be a decent human being, even if,
we're not.
Yeah.
So, and then another 2 years passed, I didn't have anybody. And I was like, oh, okay, well. Then I found somebody that I was sexually attracted to. Right. And I was like, okay, he seems like a decent human being. He's cool, like, I don't mind. Let me break my celibacy with him, right? And then we had sex. And it was not what I wanted. It was really annoying for me as well. That would be painful. But anyway, and he was selfish. He was a selfish lover. I don't like selfish guys.
I don't like selfish guys.
Question. Was he selfish outside of the bedroom?
Yeah, I realize that now. Yeah, this was after I said I should have known. You cannot even give me ordinary water.
But because most of the time it doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's how it is. I realized that
from the beginning.
Normally it's not even somebody that I should have. Anyway, let's not.
The attraction. The attraction.
It was just the physical attraction because I knew on a normal day.
Do you see? But this is also why sometimes people are celibate, so that like you don't get clouded with that sexual
attraction. But then I feel like that's because I've been celibate for 4 years now, so I think that's maybe because why did I now get lost in that attraction?
Because you said you had told yourself, you had made a decision again that I'm no longer going to be celibate. You had opened yourself to okay, you know what? I'm going to have sex. I just need to find the right person.
Right.
So when the attraction came...
Yeah, I was okay.
You're like,
because it's not normally there. That attraction is very hard for me to get.
Yeah, exactly. So when that attraction came, you're like, oh, this must be the right person for me to break it. So it wasn't... You were now not looking at like other
long
things.
Term. No, it wasn't. I was just looking at that.
Long term, but like sometimes even if it's not long term, like, oh, how does this person treat me? How does this person make me feel?
Yeah.
You're looking at what is the vibe? We go a lot.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. And I thought, okay, this is gonna work. What I want from him. And he was, he was good, but he was not that he was rubbish. He was just a selfish lover, and I don't like the selfishness. And I voiced it. Yeah, exactly. That's very true. And I voiced it to him, and I could see that he was not going to change. So I was like, you know what, So that was like a year and a half ago. So now I've now been celibate again for another year and a half, So that's why I say I've had sex once in 5 years, right? But then people who judge people off of decency in the way they will look at me and assume that I am not modest, right? But then you associate modesty with celibacy.
My dear.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
I went to Abuja once and I stayed at a hotel, and there was this lady that came into the lobby. So I was sitting in the lobby, and she came in. She was covered, full hijab, covered, and all. And she came in, went to the front desk, and the guy showed her where to go. And I was waiting. I was waiting for someone to pick me up. I don't know what I was waiting for. I was in the lobby for like an hour. She came out just about the time I was leaving, covered again. And this time she came out, there was a man that escorted her out. Okay. And then one of the people at the front desk was like, "Oh, not their way. She don't come. This is her regular spot." And
regular
I was like,
spot for what?
Spot for what? Apparently, like,
hey, let's not do amebo.
I want to do it. Let's do it.
It's not amebo. This is
It's truth. Okay.
She's a commercial sex worker.
She's a sex worker.
Really?
Okay.
Yes, but and the guy was like, "Oh, here in the north, they don't do a shower the way you Lagos people do and stand on the river. They are covered. Like a bunch of them are covered because even the men that are sleeping with them, they don't want them. They can't.
Of course,
they don't want them to be open outside.
Open
so they're modest.
Mm.
Modesty is not a thing of dressing. Honestly, it's a thing of the mind, you said, right? And you could be judged. You know,
All the
and
time,
if you and her, like the way you're dressed now, I'm not saying you're. But this woman comes all covered. Obviously, she's going to get a lot more respect than you would. However, this is also not to say that commercial sex workers don't deserve
because
respect.
It's a job.
They do. This is what we talk about all the time.
The truth of the matter is that if
They
there
have
was
clients.
no demand,
They have
There
clients.
wouldn't be
Exactly.
supply.
there would be no
And
supply.
also,
It would have dried up.
with commercial sex workers, can I just say as well, right? I really can't stand the stigmatization of it because, right, let's take away the religious moral aspect of it because that's what people mostly argue about, which is fine, yeah. But if we remove that, why is it that a woman does not have a right to? I can sell my mind, I can sell my physical features, I can sell my intelligence, but my sexual energy, it's mine, doesn't belong to anybody else. It doesn't. So if you remove the case of morality, how dare you tell me that I cannot use my sexual energy to make money?
Yeah. And sorry.
I want to hear what you have to say because I can see you're like, So, but it's true because when you remove the morality, it's mine.
I agree.
How can you police me to that extent?
Well,
It's my sexual pleasure. It's
but
not
you know
hurting
why?
anybody.
But you know why? You know why? Because again, if you think about like what are some of when people consider sins. I mean, again, I go back to being a Christian, but you know, Jesus said, "There's no sin that is greater than the other." Right?
Right.
All sins are equal.
Right.
Right? That's what we believe in Christianity.
Right.
But as human beings. Not
Right.
human beings.
Right.
What is
We're
being?
judges. I'm just trying to tell you. We're judgy.
We're so judgy.
And we rank. The truth is, we rank. You know, somebody stole versus murder. We take murder as
Exactly.
a bigger. You know, and even in the justice
definitely.
system,
Yeah.
you know, someone who kills is more
Yeah.
likely to get sentenced to death.
Yeah.
If you stole, they'll sentence you to prison for a few years. So it's the same way about like, you know, now
Sex, no, of course.
So and let me tell you, part of the problem is always women. It boils down to women being it because the idea is so now women were considered property.
Exactly.
So if you're a commercial sex worker, and really even till now,
Yeah.
in a off way, are we not still considered property?
Yeah, no.
You know, like
Definitely.
yes, we talk about women, fine, whatever,
And we
but
are
you're
property.
Mrs. Somebody.
Yeah,
You
literally,
know,
you belong to them, yeah.
You're not. You're
We take on
expected.
the
A
side
woman
of
is
everything,
expected to change their name.
A
Let's
surname.
not talk about this.
We'll
Surname.
get into
That's
later,
a
but that's what
completely
literally that's
different conversation.
that's like
Anyway,
slaves.
so I think the idea of like, you know, commercial sex workers is like, okay, so now who do you belong to? You belong to the streets.
yeah.
You belong to everyone, which is also really this whole slut-shaming thing of
It's
like,
slut-shaming majorly.
so any man can sleep with you.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. That's why women are virgins.
That's
are
my
held
point
in
exactly. It's the
high
possession
esteem.
and the control. It's really
possession and
nothing to
control.
do with, you know, any benefit or anything that makes you disgusting. It's just because you want to possess and control me.
Can we now flip it and say, okay, so we're talking about commercial sex workers, we're assuming women that stay on the road or women that are called to. Now, if, for example, there's a woman and she's not in a relationship with anybody, she meets man A, right? Man A, she sleeps with him, right? Oh, he's like, oh, yeah. Oh, I need to pay my rent, blah, 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 blah. He pays her rent. She sleeps with him, right?
Transactional.
Then she and him break up because we're saying, okay, we're not commercial sex worker. Then she meets man B. Man B buys her a car. She sleeps with him.
Right.
Is she a commercial sex worker?
Depends on the terms.
What are the terms?
So did I say I would have sex with you and then you would give me money for my rent?
But if he was not giving her money for her rent, would she sleep with him?
That's the thing.
That's
That's
what-
if that's why I said
Okay, I
it
get
depends
it.
on the
I know,
terms.
okay.
Because
You
a
see
lot
I'm
of
silent,
sex,
I'm like,
because
okay,
a
it's
lot of sex
transactional.
is transactional, even in marriages.
What that would mean that in some
But
cases,
even then
if
again,
in-
no, but you know what? My point still remains. It is my sex. It is my sexual pleasure and my sexual energy. I have the right to do whatever I want with it. If I want to use it to get car and house,
My
why
dear-
do you get so angry? Because it's not yours.
do you know why
But
they
why?
get
You know
so
what I
angry?
mean?
Sorry,
Because they can't
Can I
possess
say
you.
It's because of jealousy.
That's what I'm saying. Possession and control. On Allah. Sorry. No, but
It's the way they
seriously.
say, oh, this person, like when they slut shamed Obi Ekwesili. That's when I
Who's
knew.
that one?
That's when I was like former minister of finance. That's when
yeah,
I was
slut
like,
shamed her as well.
whomst am I?
Who's the man that they will not
Whomst
cost
am
me?
I that they cannot slut shame? If they can call Obi Ekwesili Ashawo, who am I?
Yeah.
So when they say somebody slept her way up, it's jealousy.
It's jealousy,
They
yeah.
cannot sleep
Yeah.
their own way up.
Yeah.
It's
And
as
if they
simple
could, they'd
as
be
that.
very happy. That's why
And
they
they
think
would.
every
That's
woman is
what
on
I'm
shower.
saying.
They would
And
do
some
it if
can,
they could.
some
Listen.
actually do.
Listen, this is
They
what
do.
this is what I always say. This is what I say. So she slept her way up. Do you think that is only by sleeping? How is she able to stay
And also,
up?
I was going to say, yeah, you said that she slept away, but you guys forget about the men. It's happened to me so many times that you go into a room with a business idea or you want to do something and they tell you, you must sleep with me for me to
Yes.
give you this. So how,
Yeah.
and now she has no choice. So she's not going to think to herself, okay, do I say, okay, no, and go, which a lot of women do, or do I say, let me just take this, right?
Yeah.
Now, if she takes it, she's the problem, not this man
man that
in
gave
the
her
position
that
of
position.
power
Thank
that told her, you must
Thank
sleep with me. Because
you.
I've lost count of how many times that's happened to me personally. I can't even lie.
Sorry, please, I want to read a tweet
Okay, go
that I
ahead.
found very interesting, right? It said, the thing is that women are not seen as sexual beings. Men can flaunt their chests and expose their thighs, and they won't feel they are seducing anyone because women have been raised to suppress their sexual desires,
Right.
like everyone should. But let a woman show a little cleavage. Your religions were written and instituted by men who barely saw you as human, let alone sexual beings. Nobody is telling men that their chests are tempting and they shouldn't wear shorts because their thighs might attract women, because women aren't seen as sexual enough for that.
I'm telling you.
We can't
Absolutely.
even be like, I was saying that there was a group where we ladies, I would not mention names, we'll just come and just like drop our sexual experiences. No name calling. It's not like all those weird Telegram things that's happening
Yeah, I've
now.
been seeing that,
Please,
yeah.
that they're sharing news. We didn't used to do that.
Yeah.
Please. We just come, and then it was like, because we don't have spaces where we can talk about sex. We don't.
Yeah,
Women
we're not
don't have
encouraged.
that.
Yeah, it's slut shaming again.
Yeah, right. So because easily you'll be slut shaming in a second.
Yeah.
So in this group, we will just talk about like, okay, I saw one guy at the gym and I really like him. Then they will give tips on how to like talk to him,
Woo him.
and ask him if he wants to like have sex. And they were like, before that group, I used to say that, oh, women aren't like casual sex people. Women don't
Lies.
really like, although I don't like casual sex,
Right.
because sometimes men are just mean.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain more than that.
But do you think you don't like casual sex because men are mean, or sometimes you just want a deeper connection?
Yes, I'm a mental sexer. I'm a mental
Yeah,
fucker.
Like
definitely,
so if you're not getting that,
Then you can't. Yeah. I'm like,
My
yeah, this is why
juices
my
won't
celibacy has
even
been so
flow.
long. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to have the mental connection, which is literally why
but then they're just the same way they are men. But there are also men who are like that. I know men
Yeah,
who
that's
will
true.
tell you
I
that
know them.
I can't
Yeah, me too.
sleep. Like, no matter how attracted I am, physically attracted I am to a
if
woman,
I'm not mentally.
I can't
yeah.
just see her and sleep with her. I need to develop a connection,
Right.
get to know her,
Right.
vibe and all of that.
Right.
So there are also, just the same way there are women that way, and just the same way there are men who will sleep with anything.
There are women who do the
There are
same.
women
yeah.
who do
Yeah,
the same.
it was an
Because
interesting.
really, the difference between men and women, physically, is not much.
It's vagina and penis.
Yeah.
No,
It's
but even,
mentally.
do you know that
though.
the clitoris and the penis
It's the same.
are the same erectile tissue?
Yeah. I
Okay.
was watching the sex pleasures of sex on Instagram.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same erectile tissue that develop, which is why I tell women, do not ignore your clitoris and don't let him ignore it. It's, imagine having sex with a man and not touching his penis,
Exactly.
and his penis not being stimulated. Is it possible?
Right. No.
No, but we feel that it's okay because
For
the
men-
penis can enter the vagina,
Yeah.
that we should leave the clitoris. The
So your
clitoris,
nerve endings,
because most of the nerve endings are the clitoris.
Yeah.
So the clitoris needs
the stimulation,
that stimulation
it
just as much as the
does,
penis
it does.
does.
Yeah.
In fact, it's imperative, to be honest, for like good sex for women.
Listen,
Let's be
whether
honest.
it's internal clitoral stimulation
Needs
or
it.
external clitoral stimulation,
Yeah,
please,
it definitely needs it.
Wait,
Yeah.
let's not ignore it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just the same way there are men who would stipulate, anyone. There are women who would stipulate. So casual sex, it's the same for men and women. It's
It
just that society
is.
has sold women that.
But the thing is that
Rigid.
my own
Stay
part of everything that I don't like is that I wish that there was a culture where, because there's purity culture, right? And there's
Right.
slut-shaming, and it's mostly affecting women. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Kama
Yeah.
Maria, Kama Jali.
No, but it's true.
So
does.
there's also a stigma when like you even come out and say, because I'm quite sex positive,
Positive, right? Definitely.
I like retweet porn on my Twitter, and I'm like, hey, let me retweet for my followers. I'll say stuff
Yeah.
like, now this kind of content where they see. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And even stuff like that is a
Get
problem
judged
for some
for.
people already.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I wanted to say that, okay, like it's easier for men, right, to say, okay, they want to explore sexually, and even come out to say that they're exploring right sexually. But for us women, there's purity culture, there's slut shaming, and this thing just follows us, and then we're not able to express ourselves sexually. There are not even safe spaces for us to express ourselves sexually. So
Right.
that's my own. I wish there was better for women, to be honest.
Well, true, but then could we say that there are no spaces for you to express yourself? Create those
To
spaces.
do it right, exactly. And you are creating
But
the space
like
by
you said,
being how you are.
You talked about
on your
like,
platform.
yeah, you talked about like groups that you're in,
Yeah.
where I think it's about finding a tribe and finding a place where you can definitely be yourself. And sometimes the safe space could maybe just be you and your partner.
Exactly.
Because again, like everyone, like we can't get rid of modesty. Do you understand? Like we can't say
We
that
shouldn't even be
everybody.
getting
I don't-
rid of-
exactly. No.
rid
I'm
of
just even saying. I'm just
modesty.
saying that. But like also, when I say modesty, I think there's also like a group of people who feel like I am this way, but I don't necessarily like. I'm very sex positive. I really cringe from that sex positive. I used to use it a lot. I used to talk about sex positivity a lot, but I realized that the word or the term sex positivity has almost been weaponized to kind of make people who are not open. Like when you say I'm sex positive, it usually now says, oh, I talk about sex anywhere.
That's not being sex
I'm
positive.
not,
What? That's like actually is
Let's
part of
define
it.
that.
but that's a
honest.
big part of it, isn't it? Where people are like, so now if I say that, yes, I talk about sex anywhere, right? But I
Right.
also understand
Some
like,
people don't.
No, but I
Education
also
aspect
not just
and-
even just education, but I'm not gonna come and like talk about like my sex life in public.
Right.
It's not a space. It's not a healthy space for me to do that. I
Right.
don't think it's right. Right? There's some bands about it, like we talked about
But
dressing,
that's-
Boundaries
for
and
example.
stuff.
So what I'm saying is, now, does that make me less sex positive?
No, it
No.
doesn't.
Does it make someone who is, for example, maybe more modest in their dressing or more modest in like their approach, but at home with their partner, they're a complete quote unquote freak.
Right.
Do you understand? So sometimes I think we have to, but that person
Allow
might
space.
also be a bit taken aback when they, are exposed to like sex in a public sphere.
Well, my own problem is that I think that I want to also remove that stigma from talking about sex. Do you understand?
But I
There is
think
this
what
thing-
yesterday is saying though is that we should make space for people who are comfortable. Like sex positive doesn't mean that I should talk about sex. However, like, I can be sex positive, but I don't have to show it in the way that you show it. It's the same way we talk about, modesty, or we talk about feminism, right? We talk about women. Like feminism doesn't mean that. It's like, it means you have the freedom to choose, right? So I feel like, is that the same angle?
Yeah,
you're coming
when
with
you
sex
say
positivity?
feminism, we're talking about like, equality for men. I think you just have to think, sometimes some people have to look at it like there's a time and space for everything. That's
I-
it.
I-
Some
I
people think
strongly
that, but you
disagree.
don't, and you're allowed to think
And
that.
you're
Me too,
allowed,
I
and
agree.
I think
Yeah.
you're allowed to do that. But
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
do too.
there's a time and space for everything. I am not going to walk into, well, I guess I don't typically curse in my everyday life. But even if I'm going to use a curse word, I would not, there's something in my brain, I would not use a curse word in like a religious setting. It's just not, it's
Okay.
Right.
just not going to happen. And if somebody comes in, and as sex positive as I am, right? If somebody comes in and does that, or, like shares, because I go to churches, I speak at churches, like on the pulpit, and I talk about sex.
Right.
And I talk about and I say the words penis and vagina and all of that. But at the same time, there's a boundary that I just wouldn't cross. right?
Yeah.
And I can, and it's okay
Because
for
you're
me to
married
be,
as well. If you're a single girl now, you'll not be allowed on that pulpit.
you know what?
Fair.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Fair.
In
Yeah,
fact,
you wouldn't be allowed on that pulpit.
in fact,
They'll be
let's
like,
talk
"Shut up."
about a little bit about that. When I moved back to Nigeria in like
When did you
2012,
move back? Okay.
2012, and I started Coitus, well, now Uluri-Coitus then,
Yeah,
my mom was like,
I'm sure.
please. Like,
I bet.
like now my parents knew, like when I was, like I said, when I was in uni, when I was in college, I used to like, you come to my apartment, there'll be like a bowl of condoms. I used to have condoms. Like people used to come and ask me for condoms. Like my parents they knew about that. They were cool with that.
Right.
I mean, now I think about it, did they think I was having sex or not? Anyway, but they were cool with. They're like, oh, it's health, public health, all that good stuff. So they were good with that. Then I moved back to Nigeria and I had like a small little sitting room and I used to keep like a bowl of condoms. And then I started to, and my mom was like, you're not married yet.
Literally.
Who is going to marry you by? Even if you find a guy that wants to marry you, when his family hears all these things, and
it's true.
It was one of the things that, like, I mean, would make you like think that, oh, should I pause this? Should I be doing this?
Right.
Y'all, by 27, so all the years of going back and forth of start and stops, a lot of false starts for Oloricoitus. By the time I was a married, settled woman, all of a sudden the acceptance came.
Yeah, it does, because it's like now you can do it.
Now
yes.
churches want to speak to you.
Right.
Now,
because now you have
people are calling, because now I have
status and basis. You're pleasing your husband, you're pleasing yourself.
Because as you're
I have
married, that's
a
the only time you can
license.
actually talk about sex.
Exactly.
But do you know that even in talking about sex, there's an eye that they use.
But this is my question.
There's a limit to where they feel that you can.
You can go. Right.
How far can you go?
Not to go like too personal.
Go ahead.
And you don't have to like say names or whatever. When you talk about the talks you have like in church and in all these spaces, right? I imagine that there are young people, like young boys and young girls and young men and young women, right? So I wanted to ask, like, what's their conversation about sex? Because it's something I want to know where this sexual education or information is going.
So two things. The first thing is, actually, a lot of times when I get called to like churches or like church events, they're usually couples events, married couples. So, or talking to intended couples, so couples that are about to get married,
right.
Or I'm talking to couples that are already married. They're never like mixed company. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's true.
We're not calling, like, it's not like, oh, the youth, like, in a lot of churches, you have like Sunday school, you have like youth group, and then it's the adults that are in church, So a lot of times it's those things. And actually, they never call me to Sunday service. It would be like a couples event after, maybe like Sunday evening or Saturday afternoon or something of that nature. But now when we talk about what are young people saying, I had a push, and I'm still pushing to get like sex education into schools.
Very important.
Very important. But guess what? I've had a lot of pushback on that. I've written proposals to like name top schools in, I mean, we're in Lagos, top schools in Lagos. People, I've been approached, maybe like a guidance counselor from a school would be like, oh, I love what you do. Could you please come talk to our students about this? And then we go back and forth. And then you hear, I remember there was a distinct one. We were going to talk to students in this thing confuses me now.
Year 8, year 9.
Thank you. Because I'm like JSS.
Me too, that's how I calculate. I'm like, is it year 11? I don't know.
So these were, it was supposed to be JSS 1. That's what, 7?
Year 9, I think.
No.
Or
JSS 1.
We shall know JSS.
That's year 7 now.
Year 7.
Yeah.
So we're going to have, we're going to talk to JSS 1, and JSS 2 and JSS 3 students. So that's 7, 8, and 9 students. And of course, it was going to be tailored. The thing about, sexual health education is you don't just, the education I'm going to have to 20-something, 30-year-olds, it's very different from what I'm going to talk to.
Yeah.
You can have literally children from the age of 2, you need to start exposing them to some sort of
Absolutely.
sex education. Because if you actually want to protect
them
your
as well.
children from not just being physically molested, but also a lot of mentally and being exposed to all kinds of things, you have to give them the right information. Anyway, backtrack. This particular school, we, wrote to them. Somebody came to us, asked us to come and have this, talk and all. And then the parents, like the PTA just went crazy.
Like, no Why
There
would you
were-
do that?
First, there was the case of the people who were like, I'm taking my child out. My child is not going to be,
Wow.
Oh,
my child,
wow.
not out of the school, but my child will not be attending this
That's right.
thing, you know. And it was one of those like after school club things. So it was like
Yeah.
their club hour. They're like, no,
Right.
my child is not going to attend this because I will do the sex education by myself.
Right.
Fine. Great. Then there were you have to write word for word,
What you're going to
verbatim,
say
what
to
you're
them.
going to say.
Mm.
You're not allowed to use the word sex.
What?
Yes, I tell you. Because first I was like, I'm not doing this.
Crazy.
I'm not doing this. I'm not doing. Like my first thought, I'm not going to do this. This is BS.
It's
Like,
too stressful now.
not even just stressful. I'm like, what is people thinking? But I was like, you know what? It's still a win because regardless, these children, you have to think about like
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
the work you're doing.
opportunity to be able to
Yeah.
impart.
Yeah.
So we agreed and did not use the word sex. Now, while talking to these kids, we had, like I said, GS1, GS2, GS3 at different times. And also we had to split the groups, boys in one room and girls in one room.
Yeah.
In talking to the year 7, sorry, I keep getting it. In talking to year 7, we also, when we talk to them, we also give them like this box. We pass around this box and they can write their questions. Some of the questions that these year 7 kids are how old? Like 11,
12?
12?
10.
Yeah.
10, some even 10.
Yeah.
We're asking about things like hentai. Hentai is like
What's hentai?
sex
Wow.
porn.
Can you imagine me? I didn't even know what
That's
this
like
was.
anime porn.
It's anime porn, right?
Wow.
They know
talking
a lot
about-
though.
Because they've been exposed now.
They've been exposed,
Yeah.
even, you know, because again, they have access to devices. They're
Yeah.
seeing
Right. The
things.
internet.
Internet.
Yes, and sometimes some adults show them stuff.
It's true. It's true. Very
You
true.
know, as a way of sexual grooming.
Yes.
True.
You know, or sometimes they're asking things about, oh, my friend said, you think you've told your child what your values are, but your child goes to school and your child is exposed to all these other kids
Right.
who might not have the same boundaries that you have. So now they have been exposed. So yes, your child is not seeing it like you have parental controls on their devices and all that good stuff. Yes. But you also have to talk to them.
You do. It's
Because
important.
you have the
Communication.
reality of life is they're going to find out from their peers.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you want to arm your child with enough information so that when their peer comes and says, oh, don't worry, just have sex. All you need to do is drink Crest. Or all you need to do is jump up and down
this
something.
sperm will not
Yes.
enter.
You will be able to tell your child, you'll say, it's a lie.
No.
My mommy said.
Let me
Right.
tell
Daddy
you.
said-
My daddy said, my mommy said, or this is what I
Right,
learned, you know. Or when they talk
right.
about bodies and,
Yeah.
you know, there's so many ways.
It's so important.
Literally, there are resources for every age. But the thing also is this fear.
Yeah.
Parents are so afraid. We as society are so afraid that if people have knowledge, they're going to do. Because again, you know, the whole idea of don't have sex until you're married or don't have sex
Yeah.
outside of confines of marriage. There are rules because we want to maintain our society a certain way. And we believe now that because of that, if people now know that, oh, I can have sex without
go and do
doing
it
this,
anyhow.
they will do it anyhow. But that's not true because again, your choice to be celibate or your choice to not have sex, it's between you and
yourself.
I'm telling you, it's not
you and your
exactly-
God, depending
Right.
on, you know, your religious
Right.
background. But you knowing, it's not going to make
helps you a lot,
Listen, I
actually.
tell people a lot on a personal note. Again, I knew about sex super early on
Right.
because I was just super interested in learning about not having sex, but all
The body and everything,
the
right.
body and the health and all of that.
Right.
Me actually knowing about sex made me
Not in a rush.
I was never in a rush.
Yeah. Because
There
you're
was
aware.
no I had made a decision. I mean, yes, I was raised in a Christian home and all of that. And
Right.
growing up, they
Of
tell you
course,
don't have
yeah.
sex until you're married. But that was not my decision. My decision was not based off of that. I mean, there's that. But a big part of it was like, there's nothing there. Do you get?
Because you understand.
There's
It's
not like
there's nothing you're looking to go and
if
find.
someone is like, oh, show me that you love me, a guy comes and it's like, oh, I really want us to just cement our relationship. I'm like, bruh, it's not with this sex, sha.
That's sha. I'm
Because,
telling you.
let me tell you, STIs, pregnancy,
Right.
that's a headache I'm really not trying to have
Right,
at this
right.
point in my life.
Right.
And when I did decide to have sex, it was on my own terms.
Right.
Because I knew, I
You
was
had
like,
the
okay,
knowledge.
can I, what am I going to do about birth control? What am I going to do about this, that, and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? Am I having sex with someone just having sex? Oh, no. Okay, are we getting tested? Are we getting tested? You kind of need to have
Yes.
your kids know this so that boys and girls
Yeah.
are choosing. The research says it. When kids are educated early about sex, they're more likely to delay the onset of sex.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you
And that
so
is
much.
where
Honestly,
we are going to
yesterday.
end the episode.
Thank you. That was amazing. You were an amazing
have
guest.
Thank you for
really,
having me. I really
Like, this was a
enjoyed this
fantastic
conversation.
episode. Like, you
Yeah,
were
very
just
conversational and
great.
insightful,
Like,
to be
so can I
honest
just
with you.
ask you before we end one thing?
Okay.
Can you give our listeners, we call it FEP, advice of the day. So what advice would you give to women in dealing with slut shaming and just their sexual pleasure and desires in general? Just one good one. One good one.
I think my advice would be that I think I started by saying pleasure is your birthright.
Yes.
Pleasure is your birthright.
Facts.
Yes.
So, my dear sister, go after it. Don't be ashamed of finding it. Don't be ashamed of discovering what gives you pleasure. And don't be ashamed of asking. In fact, don't be ashamed of demanding for it.
Yep.
And don't think about pleasure as just sexual pleasure. There's a lot
Sensuality,
of like,
yes.
just, getting in tune with your body, understanding like what your body wants, what your body needs. It could be as simple as, I like to go to the beach. I like when like the water waves like run on my
Touches,
leg.
right?
Yeah.
Or, I really enjoy having a good meal or cooking a good meal. Or I really enjoy relaxing,
Right.
playing soft music and just kind of whatever it is that kind of just brings you back into yourself. And if that's sex as well, go for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
You were
so much,
amazing.
Oloricoitus.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We definitely enjoyed recording
Thank
it.
you. I enjoyed being here. This was a great conversation.
So catch us on social media. Follow us on social media. I am Teso the Starseed as always. Yesterday, give us your social
I
media.
am at Uluri-Coitus, one word.
And Big Chief NK.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.